Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. 12 wins in a row. How about that? 12 wins in a row, one for each of the days of Christmas. How about that? 13 wins in a row. 3WF4 VWTS. Video Gaming with the Stars is what that stands for. Video Gaming with the Stars. How's everybody doing today? We had, feel like I've been due a little dose of comeuppance. It's a very medieval word. You know, it sounds like a word from like the turn of the 20th century. But I've been talking about, oh, having a newborn isn't that hard. It's just like they sleep a lot. Sure, you gotta wake up for a couple of feedings now and then, no big deal. And then last night, oh man. I don't mean to complain. Again, we got ourselves into this mess. But, I don't want to get too personal with it, but it was like, you know, wake up for a feeding, there's a diaper change, the diaper's overflowed, so it's got to be like a full wipe down plus, you know, clothing change, and then, you know, oh, by the time you finish the clothing change, she's hungry again, and then by the time you finish the feeding, she's used another diaper. It was like the siege of Helm's Deep. Last night, both Kate and I, you know, maybe got. I think this is where we want to be. Hold on, we might want to look for a second secret room because I thought for sure it would be right there. It might be right here instead. All right, we're gonna leave then. Both Kate and I got like maybe 4 hours of sleep each, and then like it's just a cavalcade of despair, right? So like normally. 4 hours of sleep is bad, don't get me wrong. Especially because it's not like you sleep from 12 to 4 and you wake up and you're like, well, you know, that's not a lot, but at least it was consistent. You know, you sleep like 10 to 11:45, you wake up for 10 minutes, then you get back to sleep at 12:15. At 12:22, you know, you wake up due to some weird noises coming from the crib, and then you're like, ah, it's just normal baby noises. So it's like it's a weird 4 hours. Like, it's not like collecting a paycheck, it's like picking up a bunch of, you know, quarters off the ground and then having to rinse them off before any store will take them. That's not a good metaphor. I don't understand the metaphor at all. And then, you know, normally it's not so bad, but then I didn't have any cold brew made, I didn't have any store-bought cold brew, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Starbucks, so I'm gonna go get some cold brew, but then immediately as I was gonna go to Starbucks, Kate's parents dropped by for a visit, so we had some conversations, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Starbucks. Then I went to Starbucks, and as soon as I walked in, they were like, excuse me, sir, do you have a mask on you? And I was like, oh, crap. I accidentally went outside without my mask. Then I was kind of like embarrassed, so I went home, and I didn't go back for like 3 hours, but I finally got my coffee. The caffeination is mid happening right now. There's got to be a better way to phrase that, but you know what I mean. I'm starting to return to some degree of normalcy. This is a rare situation for us. We're starting the run so strong that honestly getting a Guppy's hairball seems like the right play. I think we do want old bandage. Yeah, and let's just get the heck out of town here. So this is one of those days where I, you know, if anybody has found it annoying that I've been like, oh, you know, having a newborn's not that bad. You just, you know, get a little bit of a lack of sleep, no big deal. Today was, the apple cart was upset slightly today, but, you know, it is what it is. It's bizarre, but I was saying to Kate, like, you know, the baby is the source of the lack of sleep. But then when I, like, look at the baby, I go, like, you know, I'm filled with, like, an endless wellspring of energy. So, on the one hand, it's magical. On the other hand, every time something like that happens, I'm like, man, evolution, you did, like, an amazing job. You've got, like, my brain totally consumed. The entity that is causing me some stress is also the stress reliever. What's up with that? You know, they did a really good job in the evolutionary process there. I don't know who they is in this situation. I guess, the genes. regardless. It's still good, you know. It's just at the end of the day, you know, I'll complain a little bit, you know, about a lack of caffeination, which admittedly is self-inflicted. Excuse me. It was just quite rude to damage me. Don't you, as a father, you think I need this in my life right now? Not that the game cares, I think. We don't really need anything from the shop, quite frankly. We're already so hooked up defensively and offensively, for that matter. We got hit, but how did we dodge that first shot? That was incredible. Okay, maybe we do want something from the shop now that we're just swimming in it. But, all in all, like, here's the thing. A lack of sleep is not, it's not a position anybody necessarily wants to be in. But at the end of the day, it's not torturous, right? Like, when people are tired, you know, you have sympathy, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's a little different than, like... I know that people aren't gonna like this take. I'm just saying, like, you know, the human body and mind are able to deal with a pretty amazing amount of, like, sleep deprivation. And even then, like, we're not even talking about, like, going days with no sleep. We're talking about, you know, most nights getting kind of like mediocre sleep, and then last night getting some really bad sleep. But then you think about, you know, people that are in... I just don't like this item, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't like it anymore. You know, people that are in, like, really stressful positions, or, you know, they're, like, at war or something like that, or... You know, their neighbors wake up at 4 a.m. to cut their grass every single day because they're retired and don't know what to do with themselves. Like, you know, those are the situations where, you know, I think it'll catch up to you. But apart from that, I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm one of those weirdos who's like, society's gotten weak. We're complaining about being tired. Granddad was flying Spitfires in the Battle of Britain. Well, no, not Granddad. Maybe great-granddad. But, and here I am like, oh... In my air-conditioned apartment, I got less than 6 hours of sleep last night because of our beautiful baby that we can provide for. Wah, wah. It's not like your leg just got crushed by, you know, an urukai or something. Yeah, I've still been watching Lord of the Rings, okay? I'm about halfway through the Two Towers right now. I watch him in fits and spurts, dude. We're getting there, though. Oh, I do kind of want it. He do be kind of wanting it, though. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's a lack of sleep. Everything's fine. It's not that big of a deal. I don't know if anybody else has, like, the same process due to a lack of sleep. But every time, like, I get a lack of sleep, you know, you kind of know it's coming about midway through the night. I guess, no, hold up. Keep it moving here. You know, when it gets to be like 5 a.m. and you're like, we're gonna be up pretty soon for real this time, you start to do some, like, bargaining with yourself. You're like, well, I don't have to be productive tomorrow. I could take a midday nap and yada yada yada. All that stuff is good. Don't get me wrong. I think if, you know, because a lack of sleep can really lead to stress, for sure, which can have an impact on your overall, not just well-being, but, like, your physical health as well. So I do think it's important to take care of yourself, but every time I do that, the bargaining is like a trick I do to myself to get me to fall asleep, and then the next day when I wake up, I'm like, yeah, I feel bad, but let's record some videos. At least if I can find the time. Here's the thing, I don't know, I have, I guess, like, a nihilist attitude about it. I'm gonna feel bad. It's such a... I hate to say it, it's so easy to, like, lampoon. Sure, I'll bide. But, like, if I'm gonna feel bad anyway, I think I would rather feel bad and get, like, a little bit of work done. We got 2 rooms left. I'll do it. I would rather feel bad and get a little bit of work done than, like, just... Because in some way, like, first off, working, I do have to say, like, every time people are like, you should work less, I do understand the reasoning, but I'm also like, you know, my job at the end of the day is something that a lot of people do recreationally because, like, it's fun. And I don't even mean just play video games. I mean, there's a lot of people who go to work for, like, you know, a full work day, and then they stream at night. And sometimes, we'll grab that. Sometimes they'll stream at night and, like, get a limited amount of sleep and go back to work the next day. I'm not necessarily suggesting that that's something you should do long term, but if you love streaming or you love making videos and you also have a little nugget of maybe like making this a full-time gig or a more than just a passion project in the future, then more power to you. I don't think I want it yet, but maybe when we leave this floor. But then on top of that, it's like, I would almost rather like use my like if I had the option, and I think this will phrase it in a way that makes more sense. Let's imagine you work like an office job, like a clerical job. Would you rather have 4 hours of sleep and go to your office job and 7 hours of sleep and have your weekend, or 8 hours of sleep and have your weekend? Or would you rather have 7 hours of sleep, go to work, and then have 4 hours of sleep on your weekend? I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I mean, it's kind of a false dilemma. You could just maybe, you could get 4 hours of sleep on work days and weekends. You can also get maybe 10 hours of sleep on both of them if you audited your time and didn't have any insomnia. But I think if you gave me the false dilemma, I would rather go to work a little tired because, I'm not like an airline pilot or a cardiac surgeon. Although I do like to think that I can heal the hearts of the nation via my banter. You know what? Why not? Let's give this a try here. But yeah, I think I would. If you gave me the choice between a rested leisure time and a restless workday, versus a restless leisure time and a rested workday, I think I would rather take the rested leisure time. I would rather double down and have fun while I feel good. Not that this isn't fun to begin with, which I already covered that in the original treatise. Regardless. Now, I will say, if I had a physical job, it's probably the exact opposite. If you're out there, like, using your body on a daily basis, you'd probably, if you're a mover or something, you'd be like, yeah, give me the 8 hours of sleep before I lift a refrigerator up the staircase, and then on the weekends, I'll, I'll sit on my porch on 5 hours of sleep. That doesn't bother me that much. That's fair. I'm just talking from my own personal, admittedly sheltered kind of existence here. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. Regardless, I say this all to, like, deflect sympathy. Like, my mom sent me a text today, and she was like, hope you guys had a restful night last night. And I said, not really, but we're feeling good. And then she sent me, like, it's a very nice text, don't get me wrong, but the text she sent was like, just remember, like, this too shall pass, and yada yada yada. And I was like, man, Mom, it's just it's just one night. We're gonna be fine. I'm not like, oh, Mom, keep your stupid comments in your pocket, but I'm like, hey, hold it, you did not raise you raised a fragile son, but not that fragile, at least. Hold on. Just stop saying my daughter has my hairline. She's not bald, okay? She has hair. Okay, this is really good. This run is like... if you're gonna talk about a run that you do while you're tortured because you had such a low lack of sleep that you might as well be a human husk, I'm kidding. But a run that's like literally the entire thing is just completely sorted from the very start to the very end is really good. That's a really good thing. Now, I will say, I know there's going to be some people out there, because there's always a sense of one-upsmanship on the internet. There's going to be a semblance out there of people who are like, oh, well, 4 hours of sleep now and then must be nice. I get 4 hours of sleep every night. I don't mean for this to come across as perhaps like punching down, but there's a difference between 4 hours of sleep because you're watching Crunchyroll until 6 in the morning, and then, waking up at noon to do a Final Fantasy XIV Savage Static raid, and getting 4 hours of sleep because, you gave yourself 8 hours, but every 10 to 90 minutes, the fruit of your loins and, the newfound jewel of your life starts to cry, and you're like, which one is this one? Babby want milk or baby poop diaper, I'm not trying to... Look, all I'm saying is you don't get to steal the newborn valor. This one's freaking me out, dude. Because I'm like, does this almost kill us? It doesn't. Okay. But it also didn't give us any bone hearts. Oh, I'm thinking of a different one. There's brittle bones, and then there's the other one. It doesn't matter. They're both, like, worth taking. You just gotta be careful. Trust me, by the way. When I was in 9th grade, I would have tried to steal the new parent Valor. My 9th grade experience, at least Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I went to bed. This is not in the school year, but in the summer vacation. I went to bed at like 2 or 3 a.m. because I watched the movie channel until late. I know you're like, that's a euphemism for perhaps consuming some adult content. It was not. Literally, I'd just be like, oh, you know, Tomorrow Never Dies is on, and I would stay up watching that until like 2 a.m. And then at 5:45, my grandpa would wake me up and we would go to the YMCA gym together. Which may also sound like a euphemism, but I promise you it was not. And then, you know, I could totally see myself being like, whoa, 4 hours of sleep must be hard. I got, 3 hours, 45 minutes last night. Yeah, but that's because you were watching Tomorrow Never Dies on the movie channel. Like, I don't mean to be rude to myself or to anybody else, but, you know, there's a difference in the level of sympathy I think you garner for a wound based on whether or not it's self-inflicted. That's like whenever a YouTuber complains about their sleep schedule, I'm like, well, look, I do it because I know that he won't actually be mad and he would be like, ouch, but also you're not wrong. But it's like when Apollo's like, I didn't get that great of sleep last night. I'm like, that's surprising to me considering that if you charted, your last 7 bedtimes on a graph, it would look like a sine curve. You know, there's, 8 p.m. bedtime, 10 p.m. bedtime, 5 a.m. bedtime, 1 a.m. bedtime, like... If somebody's like, I got 4 hours of sleep because I went to bed at 8 p.m. and then at, 11:45 I got a phone call that, like, I was on call at the hospital and I had to be in there immediately. That's where I'm like, ooh, that's where you get the headaches. Because not all minutes of sleep are created equal. I'm being like a real gatekeeper here. I apologize. I'm also a firm believer, though, that not all gatekeeping is bad. That's why businesses have security guards. Like, when I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't really have a good example. I was going to talk about, like, robbing a bank, but... Here's a question for you. Do bank robberies, like, still happen? It just seems like the kind of thing that, like... Let me just put it this way. I know that they must still happen. Pardon me, must still happen. It feels like you hear about them a lot less than I used to hear about them, you know? By the way, I must not have used Book of Revelations on the last floor. That's kind of a major mistake. Like, heists used to be all the rage, dude. But I feel like I almost never hear about bank robberies anymore. I'm not waxing nostalgic, by the way. I'm just saying. When was the last time you heard about a big bank robbery? I'm trying to think, like, Evil Genius, the television program, is the last time I can remember hearing about a bank robbery, and I'm pretty sure that was about a crime that took place in, like, the year 2005. It does seem like one of those crimes that's, like, hard to get away with, right? Like, even if you wear, like, a balaclava over your head, you know... Oh, I forgot this item existed. Even if you wear, like, a balaclava over your head, they, give you, like, marked bills or something like that, and then you've also got to, like, get away after the crime and, like, not be tracked following. It just seems like a lot of work. There's gotta be some crimes that are easier to commit and get away with than that. Like, that in the 1920s, I get it, right? You get in, hey, give me your money. And then they put the money in the bag. You get in, like, an old-timey convertible with a Tommy gun, and you just get away. And then everyone's like, who robbed us? And we're like, I don't know, he was wearing a suit. He was wearing a pinstripe suit and a fedora. And you're like, that describes every man in this decade. You just get away with it. They're not gonna track the money. What can you go to, like, a grocery store, you pay with a $100 bill. The cashier's gonna like check the serial number versus, you know, the First Federal Reserve. I don't think so. Nowadays, though, I don't know. I almost want to like Google, do bank robberies still happen? I know they must still happen. You must almost never get away with one in the modern era, though. I can't imagine. Maybe this makes me naive, but quite frankly, I'm kind of surprised when like anybody gets away with any crime in the modern era. I know that sounds crazy, but you know, there's this John Mulaney joke about how like it must have been insanely easy to commit murder in, you know, before the invention of DNA evidence, and you gotta, you know, recognize that. I mean, that must be true, right? Like, if you killed somebody in the 1800s, people are like, they never caught Jack the Ripper. Yeah, of course they didn't catch Jack the Ripper. You know, unless you saw somebody commit murder, or like they wrote their name down at the scene of the crime, they're just gone, right? It must have been like, I'm not saying I'm, again, waxing nostalgic, I'm just saying, like, how did people ever get caught for crimes back then? It's absurd. I don't know how you do it. Like, what was it like to be a cop in, like, you know, the year 1850? You go, you know, like, I know there's Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that, but he's not a real person. You just go interview people, like, at the scene of the crime, and they're like, you know, I saw a man who was as tall as an oak tree, and you're like, oh, crap. It's not possible. But nowadays, I don't know how you get away with any crime. Like, between not only DNA evidence, but like everybody has their phones out at all times. Every car has dash cam. Well, not every car, but you know what I mean. There's such a high percentage of filmed spaces now, even if you don't have CCTV like in the area where you live. People have like security cameras outside of their house, and you know, etc., etc. I remember, I don't know. I'm not advocating necessarily for a more punitive justice system, but I remember reading, and they eventually got them, but there was like this couple in a city just south of Vancouver, and they were suspected of tax fraud, income tax fraud specifically, because like the couple in question owned like, I don't know, $20 million worth of houses, aka like, you know, 4 houses in the neighborhood. But every year on their taxes, they were like, our income is only, you know, 17 or 18,000 Canadian dollars, which, you know, you start to run the numbers on that, and you're like, I don't know. But apparently, like, the RCMP, which is like our version of the FBI plus horses, apparently they like raided the guy's office to try to get some business records to prove that he's not paying the tax he's supposed to pay. And while they like, I don't know if they busted down the door or if they just like walked in or something. Apparently he just threw his laptop out the window and went like, oops, it slipped, or like the wind took it or something. Like, again, let me be clear. They eventually, you know, were able to stick him with a judgment, to the best of my knowledge, but I was like, I didn't realize this. As a criminal, you can kind of just be brazen like that, I guess. Anyway, I always thought that was a funny story. Meanwhile, like, the rest of us are filling out our taxes, going like, are you gonna need a receipt for this cup of coffee I bought while I was at a convention? You know, it's... People are agonizing. They're like, if I misplace a decimal point, I'm going in the slammer for the rest of my life. This guy's like, yeah, if the cops come, I'll just throw my laptop out the window. Anyway, they got him, so I guess it's not really like... It's more of a cautionary tale than anything else. Dude, this is the kind of run I needed today. This is a beautiful gift from Edmund to me. I appreciate it. And we're starting to have, like, again, today's not my most human-feeling day. We're starting to have some good video game, prowess again. In the last 24 hours, I have won an Isaac episode, which is not abnormal, to be fair. Oh, Serpent's Kiss. Haven't done that one in a while. I have won multiple Fall Guys rounds, and I have actually won multiple Spelunky rounds. How about that, dude? Not on the super difficult mouth bear taffy path, but just in general, getting a dub in Spelunky means a lot to me. Now, if we could sneak a little monster train in there, that would be that would be fantastic. But that's the hardest of all three to get, I think. I do think winning a Covenant 25 challenge in Monster Train is a little harder than getting a default pass Spelunky 2 win, but well, it depends. Kapala or no Kapala. Ooh, my little bloody cup, gonna give me lots of HP, Kapala, but you cannot start with it. Get with it. Sacrifice 2 damsels on the altar for Kapala. Never gonna stop. Sacrifice. Lots of turkey bodies want to give it up. Get the Kapala so I can... Okay. We don't... Look, I don't know. The knack might be litigious. We should probably... Look, here I am brazenly committing intellectual property theft and also probably waking people up that have already fallen asleep due to my relatively monotone voice over the course of today's video due to, we call it the insomniac lilt. Now, don't do that. I don't like when you use beams. Is that a chest? It is not a chest. I don't remember any of the runs that happened prior to the existence of our child, but I feel like this is the easiest one of this little pseudo streak so far. And again, I'll like, this is a situation. There are sometimes I feel like bad when we get high quality runs or runs that are way too easy, like you face no struggle whatsoever. This is not one of those cases. On this one, I'm like, over the course of the next month, anytime, and that's a minimum, but over the course of the next month, anytime we get carried, I'm gonna be like, nice. I deserve that. Here's a question for you. I don't know if we have too much of this demographic here. Is anybody here a nanny or an au pair? I believe an au pair is like a... I don't want to say like a student nanny, but like... You know what I mean. It's like a young kind of like child caretaker. What's it like to change diapers for like a kid that's not your own child? Because I feel like when I change my kids' diapers, I'm like, what do I expect, you know? They're my child. Of course I'm going to change their diapers. I guess you get paid for it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's got to breed some resentment toward the baby. Even sometimes, I hate to admit it, but, you know, when the baby makes a bad diaper at like 2 p.m., I'm like, oh, look at the baby, woo, woo. When it makes a bad, or the worst, is like 5 a.m., I change the diaper, and as soon as I put the new diaper on, I hear them dirty that diaper as well, and I'm just like, I hate this. It does cross your mind, like, could just fall asleep, and then when my wife wakes up, be like, I don't know, it was clean when I did it, but I would never do that. But in my head, the idea does cross. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. See ya!